Hello everybody, it's Lacie from LVW Creative Barracks. I'm here today to walk you through a stained glass snowflake painting. This goes along with our stained glass snowflake barracks box that includes a canvas, a pencil, 2 paintbrushes, and 10 pods of paint. That's everything you'll need to create this project at home. If you don't have the barracks box, you can order one at www.barracksbythegrand.ca/shop or visit us in Dunnville at 131 Lock Street East, Dunnville, Ontario. Now, I'm going to do my drawing with a piece of chalk. If you have chalk at home, you're welcome to draw along with chalk, but otherwise, grab your pencil and let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a snowflake, and then we're going to break it up into shapes and different pieces like a stained glass window, and then paint it in to make it look a lot like a stained glass window. Okay? So the first thing that I'd like to do is we want to work right in the middle of our canvas, and I want you to draw an X. Okay, it should point corner to corner as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, then I'm going to draw a line straight through this way and a line straight through this way. Now, if we were drawing a true snowflake, it would only have 6 points instead of 8. But drawing 6 points is a little bit more challenging. So we're going to just make an extra interesting imaginary snowflake and use 8 lines instead of 6. Okay? Once we have this really cool shape, we're going to turn it into a more interesting snowflake. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to outline my shape. Okay. Do the best you can. And you should have something that looks like that. Okay. If you have to pause the video at any point to catch up, just pause the video. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next step, which is rather easy. See this line on the inside of my shape? I'm going to make 2 lines now that touch the corners. Okay, so I'm going to do that for each end of my snowflake. Okay. Just like that. Then I'm going to look at the inner point of each one, and I'm going to drag it into the center of my snowflake. Just like that. Okay, next, let's add some different branches off of our snowflake to make it a little bit more interesting. Okay, but because we want to make it look like a stained glass window, we want to try and stick to some basic shapes to make things a little bit more window-like. If you know anything about making stained glass, it means you have to break the glass on purpose in specific shapes. And it's very difficult to break glass in a curved line. Most glass likes to break in a straight line. So we want to work with mostly straight lines today. We can have some fun with other lines in the background. Okay? Cool. So the next thing I'm going to do, remembering that we want to work with only straight lines, okay, I'm going to break up the we're just connecting the points of our snowflake. Okay. Then we're going to go where the end of one of these comes out, and we're going to draw a point. Okay, so I'm going to do this for all points. Oops. Okay. Okay, just like that. Then I'm going to put long points on the top and bottom and small points on the sides. Okay. Then we're going to connect some lines. I'm going to take that point and go here to here, and oops, here to here, here to here. Oop. That looks a little wonky over there because it's a little stuck down, but that's okay. Okay. Then I'm going to break up each one of these points. Oh, I'm going to adjust that so it points at the top a little better. Okay. Okay, just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. But then I'm going to trace a shape inside that shape. Okay, so I'm just using the edge of whatever shape's created out here to fill in those outer edges. Okay. There. Okay. It's a lot of drawing, but I'm sure no matter what you've done is going to look great. Okay, good job, everybody. Cool. Okay, so what we're going to do, we need to work with our colors. So I gave everyone 8 really fun colors to work with for okay, so I'm just going to, you can use whatever colors you like. You don't have to use the same ones I do in the same places, okay? But I did give you lots of cool colors. Okay. Okay, so our painting looks a little bit messy right now, but using all these fun colors and the help of some white, okay, we'll use some black later too, but I don't want to worry about the black right now. It's not very often you see black stained glass windows, you know, so let's leave the black out of this until it needs details. Okay, so the trick to making colors. The trick to making this look like a stained glass window is going to be how we paint things in. We're going to need to use our white or a combination of colors to make parts of our painting look more highlighted than others. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to start with my dark blue. Okay, and I'm going to paint in these sections in here. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is create a dark background area so that our snowflake really pops and looks nice and bright. Okay, so what we're painting right now would be flat panels of glass. There's nothing special about them aside from the fact that they're colored. Okay, some of the other glass that we're going to do is going to look like it's tapered. Okay, it's a special way of cutting glass. And do your best to keep your edges nice and clean. Okay, there is a way to sort of fix them up at the end, but I don't want you to rely on that. I want you to try and do your best with whatever lines you draw. That's why I'm doing the outlining first. It helps keep everything inside nice and neat. Okay, and if you make any little mistakes, don't worry, because we can always fix them with more paint later on. Now I'm making this a little longer because I notice it's a little shorter than the other ones. So I've just decided I'm going to adjust my lines now that I see them painted in so that they look a little bit more even to everything else. Okay, and you guys can do that at home if you need to too. You decide what looks best. Okay, I want to try and get nice and close to this corner in here. All right, and that may look a little funny for now, but once we start painting in the other sections, it'll look great. Okay. Oh, oops, I went too far. No big deal, we'll bring it back. Okay, this painting live stuff is pretty challenging because if you make a mistake, well, that's all that it is, and you just have to figure out how to fix it on the fly, which is good. It's a good learning lesson for you and for me. Okay, cool. So next I'm going to go with a new color, and we want to let this section dry for now, okay? So we're going to go to a section that doesn't touch this current section. So look at all these big shapes we have on the outside. I want you to paint these shapes all the same color. I don't care what color it is. You can even mix some of your paints together to make a new color if you really want, okay? But make sure you wash your brush and dry it off really well before you start your next color. I'm gonna go with this fun purple. Okay, and the same thing, I'm gonna outline my shape first. And you might notice that the shapes you drew are not very even when you start painting them in, and that's okay. Just adjust them until you think they look good. Okay, the nice thing about doing this here online instead of in class is you have as much time as you need. Okay, so don't feel like you have to rush. Just take whatever time you need. Okay, that got a little messy, but I'll fix it up later. Now, if you decide to do these different colors, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be the end of the world. So if that's what you're up to, cool. No big deal. These ones have kind of gone off the edge. Okay. So I'm going to just accept it and design all of these ones over here to go right off the edge. Okay, and see, you can just change your mind on the fly. It's called troubleshooting. There, okay? So it's starting to get filled in a little bit. Maybe it doesn't look the best yet, but that's okay because we're still adding things on and it's not done. And it's not done until we say it's done. So I'm gonna wash my brush one more time. And this time we're gonna paint these sections around our shapes. So because I did purple, I think I'm gonna go with the dark purple, okay? And I'm just trying my best to keep my lines as straight as possible, okay? And your brushes will help with this because they are sort of standard shapes. Okay, so you can use your brushes to help you make some of these shapes a little easier to paint in. Just, again, adjusting my lines as I go. Okay. And then just touch up any areas where they looks like it needs some extra paint. Right down here. Okay. Very nice. Okay. So we're starting to fill things in a little bit more. It's starting to look a little bit more cohesive. Things are starting to pull together, which is really nice. Okay, we're gonna get into some of this fun stuff. So I wanna wash my brush. Okay, now this is where we get into some of the snowflake details. So I wanna use a little bit of white, okay, and I'm going to paint in these little sections connecting my points, okay? So I'm just using white, okay? And I'm just going to do one side to start to show you, and you guys will know what to do, and I'll keep going. So I've painted over the white on both of these. Then I'm going to take a little bit of a color, and I'm going to blend that color in. So because I used white first, that white is kind of the foundation, and the color isn't going to take over very much. So it's just going to be a light version of whatever color you've chosen. Okay. Okay, and there might be some blobs. Don't worry too much about the blobs. Okay, and we're just going to keep going. So using white and a little bit of whatever color you want. I'm using turquoise if you want to do the same thing I'm doing. Okay, some of those purples might get in there, or whatever color is close to your edge. Don't worry. That's all okay. And one of the reasons it's okay if other colors get in there is because it's glass. Glass reflects all the other colors nearby. Okay, so it works well with what we're trying to do. Maybe it's not exactly how you imagined it to look, but don't worry, it's no big deal. Okay, there. So I have my outlines done. I'm going to wash my brush again. Okay, this time we're going to use just a solid color. Doesn't matter which color you want to use. Okay, I'm going to do this nice light blue for this part. And I'm going to paint in my points. Okay, so I'm just going to paint in the points with just this nice blue. And again, don't worry if your color picks up anything else from other areas of the painting. No big deal. Okay. Okay, so those are my points. Just trying to even things out a little bit, and you can do the same if you like. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, then what I'm going to do, I still have that light blue on my brush, okay? So I'm going to take my light blue on my brush. I'm going to take a little bit of that white, and this time I'm going to paint in that little triangle on the end of each one of my arms. Okay, see that? And I'm gonna use, maybe I'll use a smaller brush. That might be a bit easier for everybody. So a little bit of white, a little bit of blue, and I'm just painting in these little triangles at the end. Okay. Now remember, we have 8 points, right? So I've just painted in the long points, the ones that stick really far out, but I also want you to paint these little ones inside. Okay. There. Okay. Now I'm going to use just white, and what I want to do is paint in one side of each section. Okay, so I'll show you one section first, and we're going to do this for each one, and we want to try and choose the same side. The most difficult part about this is picking the same side for each snowflake. So I'll show you how to do that in a way that's a little bit easier. So I just painted that in with just a little bit of white. Okay, I'm going to jump a section, and I'm going to paint this one in too. Okay, I'm going to try and get nice and close to that center. Okay. painted over, so I'm bringing it back. Okay. There we go. We've almost gone all the way around. We've cleaned up a few little messes along the way. Okay, our snowflake's starting to show more than it was, which is really nice. Okay, there. So that's what I want to see for that next step. So we only have half of it filled in. But the reason we're doing half and half is because we want to paint the other half in slightly lighter or slightly darker. Okay, and the reason I say slightly one or the other is because it won't really matter which you do. You just want to make sure it's not the same as what you're already using. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit of this dark stuff on my brush, okay, but I'm going to mix it with some turquoise. So I'm making a whole new color, and I'm going to paint this, each unpainted side this color now, okay. And this will start making our painting look a little bit 3D, which is kind of cool. Okay, and this is where we're painting those fancy pieces of glass that are tapered. And they've been cut special so that they have these really beautiful points that collect the light, which is what we're seeing in our painting, is the different light being spread out and dispersed. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so see how beautiful that center area looks now that it's sort of three-dimensional? Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to sort of help recreate that effect on other areas of our canvas. So I'm going to take just white. Okay, I'm going to come along here, and I'm just going to highlight just the outer edge of each one of these sections. Okay, so it's like these edges are grabbing the light, and they're making things a little brighter for everybody to enjoy. Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to come back. I'm going to put my white and dip it in the light purple that I did, or whatever color you're using here. Okay. And I'm going to give each one of these shapes an outline. So it's the color that you painted it in with a little bit of white. Okay. And only on the outer edge. Again, trying your best to do straight lines. Okay. If you make any mistakes, it's no big deal. Let it dry, you can fix it. Okay. And sometimes if something doesn't look quite right, just give it a second pass. Just go over it one more time. Sometimes that little extra blending goes a long way. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm gonna wash my brush. Okay. Now what I want to do is go back into this section here and just darken things up a little bit. Okay, even things out. Lots of little layers in this one. It's just about as tedious painting one of these as it is to build one in real life, let me tell you. Okay, so yours might look a little different than mine right now, especially if you chose different colors, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do, we're going to do something similar to each one of these points. We want to darken up the point so that one side is slightly lighter or slightly darker than the other side. So I'm going to use a little bit of my light blue with my dark blue. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Okay, and I'm just trying to fill in one side to give us that 3D effect again. Okay, this is something that you can do when you draw. This is always a fun exercise to create coloring pages too. You just draw something and break it up into sections. Okay. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash this brush, and I'm going to use just white, and I want to create the effect that these window panes are shining, some of these larger ones, okay? These little ones, we already know they're shining, we can see that. So with these, I'm just going to come along, I'm going to draw one line, okay, one line, and I'm going to draw a line on the top, whichever piece of their section of the window is facing the top. Okay, so here there's kind of two facing up. Okay, just like that. Just like that. Okay. Now this last step is what really brings things together. We're going to use our black paint. And our black paint is going to hold all of our glass pieces together, because when we make glass, stained glass windows in real life, you have to use small pieces of metal, okay, and what's called soldering to hold all the glass together. And you actually have to use a really hot tool to make the metal melt together and hold the glass and all the little glass pieces together. So we can't do that with a canvas, but we can use a little bit of black paint. If you want to do gray, you can do gray instead. Just mix a little black and white together, okay? But what we're going to do, we have to outline some of this stuff now, okay? And wherever we outline is where these big pieces of glass will be held together. This is where you can make lines a lot straighter. You can just sort of fix any little curves that you have by outlining the lines a little bit better. Okay, so we go all the way around our window. Then I'm going to go down below these two pieces here, around. Okay. Okay, then I want to break them up again. Remember these little lines that we did at the beginning? We want to break that. Okay, like that. Try to be nice and neat and tidy as best you can. There. Oh, I'm missing one. There it is. I knew it looked funny. There. Okay, so we've got the center of our stained glass held together. Now let's pull some of these pieces out here together. So there's all my points. Okay, and notice how some of that dark purple area is getting covered over. That's okay. It's kind of what it was there for. Just meant to give us a background, a shadowy dark background color. Okay, so I got all my little sections. Awesome. And then we're going to outline these. Once all that's done, you can wash your brush. Okay. And then you can choose to break up some of these background areas where I put the purple. You can break them up a little bit, add some more lines. Okay, you can break them up with some more lines like this. Just remember to use those straight lines. Okay. Wash that brush again when you decide that you're done. Okay, and we're going to use that little bit of white left. Okay, and I want to highlight those ridges. So I'm just going to come along. There. So I'm just going down the center and off to the one side. Down the center and off to the one side. Down the center, off to the one side. Okay. And you can highlight however much you like. Until you decide it's done. Okay. And because it's a snowflake inspired painting, I'm going to just go ahead and add some little dots like it's snowing in front of our stained glass window. Okay. Now just remember, if you do this step and you drop a dot on the black paint or any paint that's wet, you may end up with a not so white paintbrush. So just make sure when you're dropped and dabbing that you've got all this, you've got the right color on the end of your brush. Okay. See how much it just looks like now? You can do that as much or as little as you like. Okay, but I think that's where I'll leave it. Okay. I hope you learned something new about stained glass windows. I hope you learned something new about painting, and I hope you had fun. Okay. I would absolutely love to see what you created at home. You can always get your parents to upload it on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram. Okay. Or you can always come visit me in the studio in downtown Dunnville, Ontario, and you can show me yourself. Okay? I hope you had fun. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for creating with me.